Welcome to Plus One Forward, the podcast powered by the Apocalypse, where we talk about tabletop role-playing games using or inspired by the Apocalypse engine. I'm your co-MC Rich.
And I'm your co-MC Rach. Today on the show, we're joined by Eva Terra. Hi, Eva. Welcome to the show.
Hi there. It's great to be here.
How long have you been playing Powered by the Apocalypse games? What was your gateway?
Powered Apocalypse games was like the very first thing I actually tried to run. And my gateway was actually, I got really into the Adventure Zone.
Oh, nice.
Because it was really popular on Tumblr. And then they finished their first season. And then they started playing different games. And then I heard about Powered by the Apocalypse. And I was like really excited about the system because I felt like it was very interesting and engaging. And I actually have a funny story because I had a very different idea about what the Apocalypse system was when I first heard about it, because I heard they talking about playbooks. And I got scared because it's like, oh my god, every single class in this game has a whole book to it.
No.
But then like, no, it's like 2 pages.
So did you think to play the character you'd have to buy like a whole book?
I did. I didn't understand much about the tabletop RPG industry, and I really only knew about like D&D and like all the books and like all the expansions and stuff, and I didn't really knew about the industry outside of that. So I was just like, so I thought that the Power by the Apocalypse was like even more complicated than D&D. If something can be that.
What was the first Powered by the Apocalypse game that you played, Eva?
I played the game of Monster Hearts with some big friends. I really liked Monster Hearts. It was like a game that inspired me a lot.
Well, why don't we jump on over here and read a Sitch?
Read a Sitch.
In Read a Sitch, our guest will discuss some aspect of Powered by the Apocalypse play or table culture they want to shine a bit more of a spotlight on. Eva, what about Powered by the Apocalypse games compels you?
I think I really just like the moves.
Mm-hmm.
I like these bits of microfiction. It's just like, when this happens, do this. And how like you can get really creative with them. I love when games just have moves for very specific things.
Mm-hmm.
Like when a move happens and how like do you influence it with like bonuses and a downside, like an advantage and a disadvantage, and how like the effects and the results and the consequences, and like you can make so many creative things with this.
I agree. I found roll plus stat feels very... everybody would expect that. They come from other RPGs and you roll a thing plus a stat. I agree with you. It's interesting when there are different ways to generate what you're rolling with. That was one of the things when I first played Pasión de las Pasiones, where you roll plus questions. So you don't really have stats per se. It's all situational. And I found that really fascinating.
And like Masks roll to take a hit where you roll plus the conditions you have.
Mm-hmm,
and I think that's like the one thing I really love about PBTA, that I'm actually just trying to import it into other systems because I like it so much.
When you pick moves as a player, are you thinking about the impact the move has on the fiction rather than just the impact the outcome will have on your character?
I like thinking about the situations the move will create. If I'm going to choose a move, I'm like, oh, this move will make it so I get into these situations and I like that. I'm going to pick this move because I'm going to put my character into these situations. When I create moves, I always think like, okay, what is an interesting situation that I want to put the players in? Then I'm going to make a move that will make it so that situation can happen more often.
So I was thinking about other moves that interest me that don't just work as a move plus stat. And one of them, I've been running Cartel recently, and I love in Cartel how they do helping. So when you help or interfere with somebody, You wager stress, and stress is kind of like a harm track, and you can wager up to 3, and you roll plus that stress that you're wagering, and on a hit, you can give them a bonus to the roll that's already happened, or you can actually give them a minus to their roll after it's happened. But if you get a 7 to 9, that stress that you wager, you have to take it, even though you get what you want out of it. I love things like that because there's that exciting wager that's on the game. I'm willing to put this much stress on the line to affect that person's roll.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I remember the Warren does something that I like a lot, which is when 2 players compete, they basically just secretly choose a number of like panic for them to take. And then they review it, and whoever like said like the most panic will take it and will get to win the competition. So it's just like, okay, how much are you willing to invest in this? Or even, are you just going to say 0 to just screw them over? And then like, what if both of them say 0? You know, like there's so many interesting things that can happen.
That is really cool. Moves that create a mini game outside of your normal move plus stat is really fun.
Yeah, like I absolutely love like sure, like the most common moves you can make like generic things like roll plus stat, but then like it's like when you get into the nitty gritty of it, like in like more specific situations, you can come up with like really interesting things.
Yeah, and custom moves are a great place to be creative once you have a vibe for how your table plays and what's a space where we don't have moves that fill in the gap there, and what's something interesting that we could use to build how that move rolls.
You can make moves specific about places or about specific characters, and yeah, I think that is really fascinating.
Well, cool. Why don't we jump on over here and open our brain to the game that you've created, okay, Eva?
Mm-hmm.
Open your brain.
In Open Your Brain, our guest discusses an Apocalypse Engine game or a mechanic if they aren't a designer. But luckily, Eva, you are, and we're here to talk about a game called Burning Hearts Forever. Burning Hearts Forever, what's the setting? What is this game about?
It is an open setting game, actually. It's interesting because I started working on it, and I had like more of a fantasy pitch for it, but then realized that like the idea was going on with the hearts. I could fit in so many different settings that like I found it really exciting. Like Burning Hearts Forever is the game about those who wield hearts, which are fate-bending tools that change shape depending on the setting. And the heart name is meant to be ambiguous because like it's like a tool, but also it's a core part of the character, something that defines them, reflects their personality. So yeah, you have like a space setting where the hearts are mechas, or a racing setting where the hearts are racing cars, or a magical girl setting where the hearts are what allows you to change into a magical girl form. So the game has like these different types of gameplay where you have your heart and where you don't.
So would you say it's both something the character has and is also symbolic of the type of person the character is?
Yes, because the playbooks in the game are based on like, your struggles, and naturally the heart depends are very based on your playbook and like are meant to reflect your struggles.
What mechanics are different in your game versus Apocalypse World, for example?
I would say that the main thing in Burning Hearts is that you have some weapons that are not associated with your heart, like you have in Apocalypse World, but like your main weapon, your main tool is your heart. It has tags, it has the amount of heart inflicts, its range, and it also comes with a number of custom moves, ways that you can upgrade it. It is a attack, but it's also a piece of gear, and it's a way that you interact with other characters. And your heart can break. There is a mechanic. You can have a broken heart, and you have conditions similarly to how Masks has, which are meant to reflect how your character is angry or scared or hopeless. It affects their moves, but also gives them an idea where like, wow, if you do this thing, you can clear that condition. So it gives a direction for players to what their character should do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, I have this bad thing, but I can clear it by doing this thing, and this thing is going to make an interesting fiction.
Another part of Burning Hearts Forever that I thought was pretty interesting in that I see Burning Hearts Forever as definitely Apocalypse Engine game, less of a Forged in the Dark game. However, Burning Hearts Forever does have downtime moves, and you have a couple of downtime moves that you can do, and those tie back into your conditions and stuff. What can you talk a little bit about the downtime moves and why you decided to put that in?
Yes, I decided I put it in because I thought they created a very interesting tie-in between acts. Because like I already had divided the structure of the game into little acts, little missions. Like, well, you do this and you fight this villain and go home. Next day you fight that villain and go home again. Kind of like I was gonna say a Monster of the Week, but that is already a different game. Like, but like an anime like Sailor Moon. Like every episode you fight, there's self-contained problem in that episode
Mm-hmm.
that ties into a major problem. And so I found it interesting, like, well, how did also like, well, how do you heal harm? How do you clear conditions? And they wanted to make it so between acts, you go like, well, what do you do in your free time? Then you have all these different options, different moves that heal conditions in different ways that have different consequences, both in the fiction and in the mechanics. So it's just like, well, I have this condition, I have this amount of harm. I can do this to clear it, and that also creates an interesting situation in the fiction to follow.
Cool. Of all of these moves, and any that we haven't discussed, Eva, which is your favorite move and why?
My favorite moves is the Frozen's Behind the Mask, which gives you an experience point for every time you lift your facade and have an intimacy moment with a character for the first time, which I think is just builds such an interesting situation. It's just like the bonus is something kind of trivial, but it still makes the players go for it. And it's just like, wow, I'm playing this character is like closed off and they're very repressed and they don't want to talk about their feelings and they're scared to express themselves. But I'm gonna make it so to create a situation where that makes the moment where they first open up to someone special. When they first let go of the mask and show their true colors to someone, make it something special. And I just really like the fiction that this move produces.
Yeah, I like that it takes a character that is going to normally be the stoic, hard character and gives them a reason to open up and seek out new people, because sometimes those archetypes can get really closed off and isolated from the rest of the game.
Yeah.
I like that both the players will mark XP when you do that too. It's not just the Frozen, but the player who the intimacy happens with marks XP. So the other players are incentivized to seek out the Frozen and try to get them to open up, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think that's a really clever part
Pound
of
on
the
their
game.
door, ask them to open up.
Well, I have to say, talking about all these moves and hearts and everything, I would be interested in possibly a little demo of Burning Hearts Forever. Would you be interested in acting under fire with us, Eva?
I would.
It is time to act under fire.
In Act Under Fire, our guest is going to run us a small section of play of the game they've designed. All right, Eva, take it away.
You stand on the grave of the first star to ever shine. Cold, sterile rock touches your feet. Nothing will ever live in here again. You look up and see the reason you're fighting for. All these countless planets with countless lives in each of them. The Tyrant of Naught stands before you. If he succeeds, each and every one of the stars in the sky will become barren rocks like this. You are Alice Goodwill, the hero. The Tyrant almost turned you into his side, but His words still sting even after all the support your friends gave you. You have a all-rounded heart, a sword that is like every other, except that it's better in every aspect. Rich, you are Alexander Nightbloom, the false one. You used to work for the Tyrant of Knots. Maybe you still do, and you're going to betray Alice after this is over. But right now, she believes in you. You have a merciless heart and a grave dagger. The Tyrant of Knots wears a mix of formal clothes and armor, like someone is at the same time ready for both combat and diplomacy, except that his diplomacy is very aggressive. He's a tyrant, after all, and his combat involves a lot of rhetoric in between each attack. I just love the sound of his voice that much. What do you do?
Alice, go ahead. I've got your back.
Oh, gosh.
You can do this.
Alice is going to keep her sword at her side and take a step forward and turn to the tyrant and say, "What do you want after all this is done?" Understanding, like, he might be dressed for diplomacy as well as battle. So let's see if this diplomacy angle works first.
He smiles.
I think Alice is going to throw her charm. So I'm going to roll with hot. And based on experience, that does not go well. That is a 6.
Oh, and he laughs. He looks down at you and he says, "Oh, you will never understand my grand plan, my masterpiece. Perfect universe of nothingness." And Alice, your heart breaks. You genuinely believed you could change his mind just with words. And it doesn't happen. It's never going to happen. Because he might say he loves diplomacy, but he just loves being right. And he's not interested in changing his mind. Your heart breaks. Anything that would cost you pulse inflicts harm instead.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think Alice is just absolutely horrified by this realization that there is no room for negotiation. There isn't even a battle here and an intent to fight. This is just a meeting to serve this tyrant's evil. And she really doesn't know what to do with that. She's a hero after all. She had great expectations, and the realization that this isn't going to play out just crushes her, pushes down on her shoulders. She slumps.
Alexander Nightbloom sees the tyrant move forward. Alice Goodwill looks broken. And Alexander, he steps forward. "Tired of Night, please, let me take her away, so that you can bring perfection. There's no reason for her to sully your feet or your weapon." And Alexander, maybe he's saving Alice from falling to the tyrant, or maybe he's got his own plans. But he's going to try to charm the tyrant into not killing the hero right this moment.
This is absolutely not what I expected, but I am here for it.
Cool. All right, I am going to go throw my charm, and I have a 0 charm. I'm not the most charming of all Forsworn. Let's see how this goes. Whew, that is a 9.
In 79, choose 2. Reveal weakness, take a string on them, you don't mess it up, and they don't get a string on you. They get flustered, inflict vulnerable on them. I guess in this case, it's not really flustered, just like, they just show you vulnerability, or you force them to choose one from below. They act awkward and embarrass themselves. They promise you something you think you want. They give themselves into you. Yeah. There's a lot of adapting this.
There's a lot I get out of that. If only our hero had been effective in throwing a charm, she would have had some of these options. But alas, I'll take them! I'm going to have the tyrant reveal a weakness to me so that I can take a string on him for later, and then force him to give in to this idea that I can just pull Alice away and he will no longer have to deal with this hero trying to defeat him.
That will work. He just feels like he's the boss. He's just like, yeah, just you're my minion. Do the thing. And like I said, he reviews a week and just turns to you and continues into working in his machine to succeed in his plan. Imagine it's just like one of these very large and very great machines, when they have a lot of unnecessary details to look
Mm-hmm.
more larger and imposing than they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he turns his back to you, expecting you to just do what you said.
Alexander pretends that he's moving over to help Alice, and he waits until the tyrant turns his back to fancy himself with his wondrous machine. And that's when Alexander pulls out his heart, a merciless heart, an engraved dagger with the tags of hand, messy, and armor ignoring. Perfect for backstabbing. And I'm going to see if I can pierce his liver or something really vital.
Yes, and you have a string on him.
I do.
You can spend that to either +1 on the roll or +1 damage.
I'm rolling plus daring, which I'm not incredibly daring. I have a 0 in daring, so I will spend it to try to be successful. So I'll be rolling +1. Here we go. Wish me luck.
Oh no.
And that is a 4.
You have my dice now.
And, yeah, and it's just like, he just holds your hand, and he just like looks like, you really think you're that easy, that it'll be so defenseless? And he's gonna like throw you aside into some sort of energy prison.
Nice. It's painful too. I scream out in horror and pain.
Alice, what do you do?
I think as the tyrant is distracted, I am going to engage in combat myself, or engage in conflict in this game. And Alice is going to pull out her heart, which is an all-rounded heart. It would be average, except it's a little bit better in most regards than your average normal sword. And she's going to take a swing at the tyrant out of revenge. She's got nothing to lose.
And I imagine your heart's just like, it's looking edgier because your heart's broken.
Exactly.
But you mend your heart when you see someone in trouble and rush in to save them despite the odds.
I'm doing the heroic thing.
That is perfect.
Awesome.
And I actually have daring. I have a lot of daring.
Oh,
I have
shit.
13 daring right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
On a 10 plus, you choose a base, and you can choose another base or an extra. The base is being trade blows with them, inflicting your harm on them, and take harm back. Push them where you want, take something from them. The extras discover a weakness and take a string on them, create an opportunity for an ally, and give them +1 forward. Go out and inflict 1 extra harm, avoid your hits, take 1 less harm. What do you choose?
Can I use this as an opportunity to take something from them? So to take Alexander from them and then we escape, create an opportunity?
Sure.
That's what I think Alice is going to do. It's not so much trading blows, but she's going to fight to get Alexander back, even if he was going to maybe backstab her. And I'm going to create an opportunity and give Alexander a +1 forward.
It absolutely is something like, I like that you just like engaging in conflicts, not necessarily about doing damage. If you want to do damage, you're going to take damage back, but also you can just push them where you want to, just take something from them without taking damage. So yeah, you take Alexander back and also create an opportunity for him.
Don't miss this time.
Cool. I guess we have to run away then. Discretion is the better part of valor, Alice. Am I doing something risky to do this?
Yeah, I would say just leaving is probably do something risky. Yeah. Roll just cold.
Perfect. So I'm rolling plus cold, and I'm very cold. I have a +2 cold and a +1 from Alice's opportunity here. So hopefully I'll get us out of here. Oh yeah, that is an 11.
Amazing. On a 10 plus, on do something risky, you succeed. So you take Alice's hand, you dodge his attacks, he enraged swings his massive sword at you, but you perfectly dodge it without any harm. and you leave. You can also extrapolate that maybe you took a critical part of the machine so that he can just complete his plan.
And we run off together.
I am interested in learning the covert ways.
And
Teach me your ways.
This sounds like a good place to wrap up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eva, for running a demo of Burning Hearts Forever for us. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Running this reminded me how I do love running games, though it makes me nervous.
Eva, if our listeners want to follow more of your work online, where can they find you?
I am mainly on Twitter at WorstGirlEva, and also itch.io, where you can see my games, also at itch.io/WorstGirlEva.
Thank you again, Eva, for coming on and sharing with us Burning Hearts Forever.
Thank you for having me. This was very fun.
Plus One Forward is a production of the Gauntlet community, Richard Rogers and Rach Shelkey. You can find us at gauntlet-rpg.com or follow us on Twitter at +1FWD. If you would like to support our show, visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/gauntlet. The games mentioned on this show use the Apocalypse engine, which is a creation of Vincent and Magay Baker. The music for Plus One Forward is from the Savage Aural Hotbed CD Gomi Daiko. The songs used are Gomi Daiko, Metal Version, and Drowning Attitude. You can find more amazing tunes by Savage Aural Hotbed on their website, www.savageauralhotbed.com.
Hi listeners, I wanted to let you know that new issues of Codex are now available in the Gauntlet Patreon feed. Codex is the Gauntlet's bi-monthly role-playing game magazine. Each issue is organized around a theme and stuffed with brand new material for your table, including original games and supplemental material for games like Trophy and Brindlewood Bay. Check out Codex by going to patreon.com/gauntlet. Your pledge not only gets you Codex and other Gauntlet publications, but it also supports all the important work we do in the Gauntlet, including this very podcast. If you'd like to try before you buy, there's always a free issue of Codex available on our website, gauntlet-rpg.com. And if you're looking for back issues, you can find them on DriveThru RPG, including in reduced price bundles. Thanks.